those who do not know me, my name is Ronnie. I am a donor egg mom in waiting, and what that just means is I was told by my doctor that in order for the best chance for me to bring a baby home was through donor eggs, and so I ended up going on a journey to get an egg donor, which I did. Unfortunately, I am still on the road to getting my baby. I just recently had a transfer, and I ended up having an early loss, so we are on the road again. So, with I want to introduce to the panel today, for the conversation, Victoria. She is here with us. So when I started this platform, I wanted it to be any woman who used medical intervention because some people don't even know where to get started, even when it just comes to IVF. And then as their journey maybe gets complex, they can see other journeys of alternate ways that women came on this journey to build their family. So today we have Victoria, and she used IVF. And if you want to start wherever your journey started, I know you said that you guys tried 3 years naturally.
Yep.
Do you mind me asking what your age is?
I am 41.
Okay, so you're 41. So
Yep.
I feel like you was about 38 something. You said this ain't it, and so
I did. It was,
we need
I
to do
was
something else.
yeah, it was like, I think I was like 36 and I was like, okay, I'm not getting
Right.
older. We need to
Okay.
figure out what's going on because we tried almost 4 years before we even went to the doctor and was like something's not right. So
Okay. So
yeah.
of the 4 years or the 3 years trying, did you think like did y'all think something was wrong or did you like what did you do? Did you do ovulation sticks and all that kind of
Oh
stuff?
my goodness, we did ovulation sticks. We did the timing as far as like the best time to, you know, have sex and I was like, okay, all right, and tried the Geritol liquid. They were like, oh, you'll be pregnant by next month, and no,
No.
never happened. So I started off and we started off on like I started off on like Clomid.
Okay.
Um And she was like, "Oh, we'll just up the dose, and you should be pregnant in 3 months." Never happened. And
Never happened.
then the process started with like testing me and testing my husband. My husband was good to go, but they couldn't figure out what was going on with me. Like I did the I forgot what it's called, the HSG, where they look at your uterus, and I mean, I did everything under the
Order ultrasound,
yeah,
checked your tubes, everything was
yes,
clear.
everything was clear.
Okay.
Everything was clear. So they were like, I think we can do IUI. And I was like, we were like, what is IUI? Because I mean, we didn't know like that was
Right.
an option. So we did like 5 IUI rounds before
Okay.
we were like, okay, we can't take the letdown anymore.
Right.
And we were like, okay, well, can we look into an alternative? And that's when they told us about IVF.
Okay. Now, how old were you when you started doing the IUI?
I was 36.
36?
Yep.
So the reason probably why, just letting the audience know, the reason why they probably told her IUL is because she's like right there in that window. So usually when you're over 35, IUIs don't particularly work. Really, IUIs are used for if you have male factor infertility, which
Mhm.
it sounds like you guys didn't have.
No.
Um,
No, and
it just gives the swimmers just a little, if they lazy, it just gives them a little bit of a push to get to the they just need a little help. So they just listen, they just gonna help them a little bit get up there.
yeah,
But usually particularly after like 35, 36, it just basically for women of a certain age, just it's just time intercourse at that point.
right,
Um, so you were just probably right in that like smaller window of we'll try this. It's a cheaper option.
right.
Um, but if you're over 38, 39, most of us, they'll doctor recommend you just bypass the IUI unless you have male factor infertility,
Right.
and they're just having a hard time. So, But it's easily understandable for you to try. Now, at that point, did your insurance cover that, or you were just paying out of pocket?
Insurance covered that, thankfully.
Okay, so perfect. So, I mean, yeah, that's yes, yeah, we like the Lord's insurance. You know what I'm saying? We are grateful
Yeah.
and thankful for the insurance that pays it.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay, so it didn't work, and then you decided to do IVF. And what were your thought process about doing the IVF?
So I did a bunch of research, because I was like IVF, because my parents, my mom, she didn't have any issues getting pregnant with me and my sister. So
Right,
I asked her, I was like, "Have you heard of IVF?" I asked my friends, and um, had really done it. So of course the doctor gave me a bunch of pamphlets, but I like to see people that look like us.
right,
So that's what I went searching for, and I found a bunch of like Instagram pages and TikTok and YouTube pages, videos, and I was like, okay, this is what it is, and it's pretty much a scientific way to, get to your baby, So, we started the process, and they were like, you have to take these hormones and do this, for a certain period of time in order to, conceive. And I was like, oh, not conceive, but do the egg retrieval to start.
right,
And
right,
that was an interesting process. I didn't realize it was so taxing on your body, but
right.
um, when they were like, "Oh, you got 32 eggs," and I was like, "Really?" Like,
That's
well,
good.
yeah, yeah.
That's really good because you were 30.
So I had turned 37 by that time that we decided
Okay,
to do IVF, because we tried everything under the sun for over almost a year to try
okay,
to get pregnant without anything additional. Of course, the IUIs, but didn't quite work out.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, and for those of us who are people who don't know what IVF, do you remember the medications and what each of them did in order to help you?
Man, ooh, that time frame was like it was like a huge blur. Oh gosh, I know. I had to take. Oh, the first thing I had to get on birth control, which is
Right.
weird because I'm like, I'm trying to get pregnant. Like, I don't want control. So that was the first thing, and then there was um there was I know the shots that I had to take. It helped my eggs mature faster. I'm not really sure what the name of that was, but I know I had to take injections every night.
So probably Menopur, Gonal F,
Gonorrhea. Yeah, it was gonorrhea. Yeah,
Follistim, one of those.
yeah,
So
yeah.
the reason why doctors would put you on birth control, and it doesn't work for everyone, that's what we tell
Hmm.
them, is because it's supposed to keep things quiet, keep the ovaries quiet. They don't want you to ovulate. They don't want you to your body just start doing it. So birth control really is to quiet everything so that when they start your cycle, you start you start that everything is low. So your estrogen is low, progesterone is low, your um LH and FSH is very low. So that's what the reason why they do it. Um, does it work for everyone? No. Some of our bodies
Yeah,
say, "What are you doing?"
yeah,
And so they don't like it. So some people get cyst, and then they may have to start their ovaries. But it sounds like when you did yours and were on birth control, everything was quiet. You were good to go, right?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
It was pretty quiet, and I had to go into the office. I feel like, or the doctor's office, every few days, for
Yeah.
them to do an ultrasound to measure, I guess, how the follicles were maturing.
Hmm.
And then I think it was one huge shot that I had to take like a few days before retrieval. Um,
It's called a HCG site.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Because I remember that the needle was huge, but yeah, so I had to do that. So that was like my first introduction into like the daily shots and the huge needles, and yeah. So um, and I think the next day we were scheduled to do the retrieval.
Right.
Yeah.
So typically, what they'll do is give you what's called a trigger shot. So you take your meds. She does an ultrasound. She makes
Hmm.
sure that all her follicles, which are eggs, potential eggs, are growing.
Hmm.
They measure them. There's always one egg that maybe take off and lead. That's your lead follicle.
Hmm.
So typically, if you're not doing injections, this is what your body would do. You would give yourself, your body would produce those hormones that they give you, but it will basically focus on one egg. um,
Yeah.
we're trying to focus on multiple eggs, and so that's why they give you the overdose of medication.
Yes.
But in your body focuses on one egg, essentially that one good egg to ovulate. So when they're doing it, there's maybe one or two that kind of take off, and then they get to a certain millimeter, and
Hmm.
then once they see that, then they say she's going to do a trigger shot. So she may have had 60 eggs or 50 eggs,
Yeah.
but only certain amount are mature. So they'll retrieve all those eggs and see which one. So 32 were
32.
retrieved. How many were mature? Do you remember?
I think once I guess they went through a process of seeing the quality of the eggs. It was like six that were quality at the end of
Yeah.
the retrieval process. Yep.
So you probably had a little bit more,
Yeah. Yeah.
32. So you may
Um,
have had like maybe 18 or like 12,
I think it was like actually I think it was like 15
15
that matured. What they told
mature.
me. Yeah.
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 So what they'll do is they'll take those 32, they'll say which ones are mature, which means they're over a certain millimeter. They'll take her husband's product and then they will put it together. And then they will tell her she gets a call and it says how many fertilized and then probably did they go to day 5 and day 6
Yes,
embryos?
they did.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you test your embryos?
I did. We did.
So she did test her embryos.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you can afford it, it does cost extra to do that.
It does. Most definitely
She got bills to prove it. But that is to test. So once they do that, they'll put the eggs and the sperm together. They'll go to day 5. They'll tell her how many she has. She had 6, probably maybe a little bit more,
does. Hmm.
because I'm seeing 6 are probably normal out of the embryos. So she probably had a good back. All in all, you had a really good retrieval for your age. You had a really good retrieval, really good fertilization, I would say, and good 6 normal good embryos. So that's really good. Um, Everyone doesn't get that, so I think you probably hit it at the right time
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
proactive, like just to say I'm not gonna wait, because you just hit I think you hit like a really good peak time, which is good on your part for you to just. What made you just say I'm not gonna wait?
Um, it was just, I think it was after our last IUI cycle, going into the IVF. We were like, we really want to, have kids. So we were like, okay, we'll try IVF, the IVF process once and see what happens. And we went through the retrieval process and we were good to go. Thankfully, because
Yes,
it's like,
yes,
you can do everything right and it's still not
right,
work. So we didn't know which way it was going to go, if we were going to have to use all six embryos or, and have to go through the egg retrieval process again. So it was a scary time, but we were willing to take the risk to have the kids or the child that we wanted at the time.
right,
Um, so it was scary, but we prayed about it and God was like, okay, yeah, I felt the sense of peace
right,
and everything in the process went smoothly. So I think that was a sign to say, okay, it may be the right time to try to have a child. So
right.
yeah.
Did you have a support system during this? Did you lean on anybody? I know you said that you started finding people because you didn't know anybody personally, but did
Right.
you have like a village or a tribe to kind of like help walk you through the process or hold your
Um,
hand a little bit?
I didn't. It was just me and my husband. We didn't really share it with our parents because they didn't quite understand the
Right,
process, and I didn't want that added stress of
right,
well, what happened today? And if it didn't work, then that stress of, like trying to explain like why it didn't work. And so
Right.
we were not secretive about it, but
Right.
we were very selective about, who we told. And then like I'm in the military, so I don't really have like a set tribe. I have like a tribe like some of everywhere all over the United.
Right.
So so it was kind of hard to like have that support, but it all worked out. It all worked
Okay.
out. Yeah.
So your very first transfer, let's walk through it. How were your feelings about you have six little embryos? Did you guys choose? Did y'all let the doctor choose, or did you pick which one you wanted to use since you knew the genders?
We let the doctor pick. We
Okay.
weren't particular about a girl or a boy. We just wanted a healthy
Okay.
baby. So, um, I know some of the IVF processes that I've heard, they can choose the gender, but
Right.
we were like, hey, whichever one it is, we're
Best
gonna, we'll,
embryo.
we'll figure it out. Yeah, we'll
Which a
figure it
lot
out.
of people do. Some people are, they want, people do use IVF for gender selection. If they have certain genders and they want one, they will sometimes pick the gender that they want. I just say whatever you want to do. Again, it's your money. So whatever you want to do is what you want to do.
Right.
Judge your mama. We
Just-
listen here and we do not judge.
right.
Of all
Exactly.
spaces, we definitely don't judge here. So transfer day, do you remember it? How are your feelings going into it?
Yeah, I remember yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. Like we woke up, Phil, he was like, "Do you want something to eat?" I was like, I don't have an appetite." Like 'cause I was just so nervous. Like, you have that feeling in the pit of your stomach, like this is it. Like,
Right,
I could possibly be pregnant today.
right,
This could be like our miracle baby, So like the night before I didn't really sleep. Like I think we had to be at the hospital at like 6:30 in the morning. I got up at like 3. Like yeah. I was a nervous wreck going into it. My husband was just calm as the water, just you got it, we got it, it's gonna be okay. But it's just like a lot of pressure because at the time my parents were like, we really want a grandkid, we really want a grandkid.
right,
And his parents had just one grandchild, so they were like, we want more grandkids. Like it's just a lot of
right.
like that was surrounding,
Yeah,
because they were like, yeah, you guys been married almost 4 years, don't you think it's time for it? It was just that constant questioning that was in the back of
right,
my mind too. Like, okay, if this works, then I can give my parents their first grandchild, and it's just a lot of questions and a lot of nerves.
right.
So
And I think it's normal with it to have anxiety, even still, like you didn't have, you had a journey, but it's like, you know, I think even sometimes that can be nerve-wracking because you're like, nothing has gone wrong yet.
right,
Like, is this where it's gonna go wrong? And that's natural feeling too. It's like, okay, I had a retrieval. I didn't
yeah,
need another one. I hear other women have to do multiple
right,
retrievals.
right,
I
yeah,
didn't have to do that. I got six healthy embryos.
yeah,
And you going, okay, Lord, is this when the shoe gonna drop? I just need to
right, right, right.
know.
Yeah, I was just like, oh goodness, and yeah, so I was a bundle of nerves, like.
Right.
Yeah, because we had to. So we were over an hour away from the IVF clinic that we used.
Okay.
Actually, Walter Reed has a IVF clinic. A lot of
Okay.
people don't know. It's one of two. I think the other one's in Texas, but we were able to use that Walter Reed clinic, and it was about almost an hour and a half away from us. So that
Okay.
drive was
Right.
just super nerve wracking. It was just like, what if we run into traffic? What if we,
Right.
because we weren't the only couple, so it was just a lot of like, what is
What
so?
is?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, embryo is implanted. Did you test early?
I did not. I
You
did
didn't
not.
test early.
I didn't because I was just. I guess I was just too nervous, and I was nervous like to be let down. So I was like, let me just wait until the blood test, and then I could, go and do the pregnancy test. But I was
Right.
just too nervous to even like buy one or, to test myself because it was just like every day, like for 2 weeks. So going into the second week, I was just like, okay, I go to get my labs tomorrow, like, you know, and I would have, I think I had some spotting, and I was like, I called the nurse and I was like, hey, is this normal? Because I don't really spot like this. And she was like, you should be okay. Don't
Right.
worry. And I'm like, okay. And it made me more nervous, because
Right.
is something about to happen, or did it not work? And my husband was like, just trust the process. Like he's always the voice of reason. He's always so calm. But me, I'm like, but wait, we
Well, especially you being like not knowing what pregnancy symptoms are like. And I mean, when you do IVF, they give you medicine and you think all kind of things. One, make you crazy, but um you
yes,
don't know what is what. And so you just like, okay. And then especially you not being pregnant before, you don't know what it was like, what it
right.
felt like.
Yeah, I didn't know
So,
what to expect. Like I was just completely in the dark. Like, and of course, I could have like Googled and been like, oh, okay, well, this may. I didn't go down that rabbit hole because I was already a nervous wreck. So
okay.
yeah, I just what I did. I watched a lot of movies. I binge watched a lot of shows, and I rested like they told me to. I cut
Okay.
down on my workout routine, and I just waited and prayed. I prayed a lot.
Okay. Well, I ain't gonna lie, you better than me, cause like I walk out the doctor's office, I got my test ready, and then I'm like, and then I'm mad, cause I just walked out and I take a test and it's negative. I'm like, well, it didn't work. It's like you just listen, it just got in there. Well, it didn't work. This, we just go
Right,
back to the drawing board.
right. That's exactly how I think. That's why I was like, let me go down the rabbit hole. I had like 10 tests, just testing, just yeah, like no, this one must have been defective. I would have went. Oh yeah, it would have.
Yeah.
It
And
would
for
have been.
some people, they do have to do that. We have people who are not testers, people who are testers. I just need to know. Like, I just need to know. That's how I am. Like, look, I know I'm about to be crazy for the next 2 weeks, but I just need to know.
I can't blame you. I cannot. It was so hard. It was so hard not to go down the street to CVS and buy one for sure. That's all I thought about. My husband was like, "Where are you thinking about going?" I was like, "To CVS." He was like, "Give me the keys. Slowly give me the keys."
Beta call comes, you're pregnant.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Oh man, I broke down crying. I cried for probably 15, 20 minutes, maybe more. And that's when we called our parents and we're like, "Hey, we're pregnant."
You did
And
it right away.
yeah, we did. We didn't wait because like the process had already been so long. Like
Right.
we're like, let's just call them. Like we wanted to wait until like Thanksgiving, and we're like, no, we just
No.
let them know now. So, and my mom, she didn't believe us. My parents didn't believe us. They were like, no, you're lying. You're lying.
Like, no.
No,
So you had faith that everything was gonna work out.
I did. I did.
I
Yeah,
love it. I love it.
I did. So, they told us that that everything was positive, and I think a month later, a month and a half later, we had like the transvaginal ultrasound, and his heartbeat was so strong. Oh my
Really.
gosh, it was so strong. So I was like, okay, it's okay. It's gonna be okay. Like I think we're gonna be fine. And like, God kept like to me reassuring us, like, okay, just continue to follow the process, and that's what we did. And I think almost every morning I prayed over him, and I would just hold him, before I started showing, and just told him how much I loved him, and just kind of tried to focus on, loving him and staying calm through the process.
And how was your pregnancy with your first child?
It wasn't bad, but it was a lot of nauseousness. Oh man, I got nauseous just walking around. I feel like just breathing. I got nauseous, so I couldn't really eat meat. I think I was nauseous all the way up until I was 7 months pregnant with him.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I didn't get a chance to like enjoy the cravings and yeah, because I would eat and it would come right back up. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah.
So he's here
Mhm.
and you did it. And how was that feeling?
It took me at least a month to realize that he was like
You
mine.
had a
Like,
baby. You had a
yeah,
baby. Mm-hmm.
yeah, because he would be in the bassinet next to me, and I'd be like, wait, there's a baby. Like, there's a baby there.
There's a
we
baby here.
we
That's a
prepared.
whole baby
Yeah,
that
this
I asked
is
for. That's
yeah.
keeping me up at night.
Right. Give me all these sleepless nights. So I still just sometimes stare at him and be like, wow, he's my son. Like he's here. Like, it's just amazing to see how God works.
Amen.
Yeah.
Now, did you go through any type of postpartum or anything like that?
So I went through postpartum depression with my son. I'm actually still going through postpartum depression with my daughter, and anxiety with my daughter, because with her, I had traumatic births with both, but
Okay.
with my son, it wasn't as traumatic, but with my daughter, it was pretty traumatic. We almost lost her. So,
Oh no.
um, yeah, yeah. So still struggling to
So
kind of
sorry.
get back mentally from that.
Well, you had the first one, and then you guys decided to try again.
We did.
Um, and did you have anxiety before you transferred, or what were your feelings about number two?
I was just as anxious.
Okay.
Just because I was like, okay, we may have 4 or 5 more, 4 more embryos after this, and I may have to go through the egg retrieval process if, the other three, embryos aren't, viable. So it was just a lot of
Right.
what ifs in my mind still.
Right.
Um, and I was actually pretty sick the day of the transfer. Yeah. I was actually getting over COVID. I had just got
Oh
COVID. I
wow.
got COVID for the first time. Um, and luckily it was like the timing of it was great because if I had got COVID, I think a few days after, that 2 week time frame that they require, I wouldn't have been able to do the transfer, of course, because,
Right.
safety precautions, but I was still recovering. So I was really nervous because I was like, how is it going to affect my body? Is it going to mess up the
Right.
transfer? So it was even more of nervousness for that because I just
Right.
didn't know. And of course, it was like 2022, 2020, yeah, 2022, yeah. So it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with.
I'm so sorry for that.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned that you had traumatic births. Did you have problems with your pregnancy with your daughter as well?
So it wasn't as bad with her. I still had the nauseousness, but so with my son, I got preeclampsia,
Okay.
and with my daughter, I got preeclampsia towards the end. She made it almost 38 weeks before they were like, "Hey, you got to come in and get induced," and
Right.
because I was trying to hold out to like try to do a natural birth because I knew my daughter may be our last time having or trying to have a baby. So,
Right.
but it didn't work out that way, and I had to be admitted, just to make sure she was safe and myself.
Right.
So,
So both your babies are C-section?
so my son was vaginally, thankfully,
Okay.
but my daughter was emergency C-section.
Okay.
Yep.
And you mentioned that it was traumatic. Walk with us with what happened at her birth.
So, um, I can't go into too much detail because I still struggle to even talk about it.
It's okay.
Um, but I was able to dilate all the way up into 4 centimeters naturally. Everything was progressing well. I had our doula that we had with my son. She was helping me with my with my labor and delivery for Armani, and they had me on the monitors, and um, they were like, "Hey, it's time to break your water," and I was like, "Okay, all right, that'll go ahead and progress everything, and she'll be here before we know it." And I said, something was like, ask them what the risks are to break your water. And I was like, what are the risks to break your water? And they were like, oh, it's little to none, no risk. And by the time the water breaks, you should dilate another 2, 3 centimeters and the baby should be here by this evening. And I was like, let me think about it. So I thought about it for another 10, 15 minutes. And then the doctor came back in. I was like, okay, go ahead and do it. They broke my water and not even 5 minutes later, like 10, I feel like 10 nurses ran into the room and they were like, she's not on the monitor anymore. We can't see her heartbeat. And I was like, what do you mean you can't see her heartbeat? And they were like, we need to do a check. I was like, do whatever you need to do. And as soon as the OB put her hand for the cervical check, she said, I feel a cord in front of her head. And I was like, what do you mean? She said, I cannot move my hand because if I move my hand, then she may suffocate. So she literally had to keep her hand there as they rushed me back to get the emergency C-section to keep Imani breathing. And I don't remember anything after that because yeah. So my husband says that they almost lost me, but I don't remember anything. But I do remember leading up to that because like I'm a huge Grey's Anatomy fan and I feel like I was in a real life like version of Grey's Anatomy because I remember vividly going into the operating room and it was at least 15, 20 people in there. Um just just waiting to, jump into action because like it was a pretty bad situation.
Oh my gosh. I'm
Yeah,
so sorry.
yeah.
And I can't imagine, being in that situation because I'm sure you didn't want to close your eyes or anything like that.
No, I fought that
And
anesthesia like, or
right,
I feel like I fought. They were like, "Hey, you got to calm down because you got to go to sleep." And I was like, "I don't want to go to sleep." I said, "I
right,
want to make sure she's okay." I said because I
right,
don't, I don't, I don't hear her. You said that she
right,
wasn't on the monitor, and they were like,
right,
"Just relax." And of course, like the more you fight anesthesia, they say the longer it takes. They
right,
had to. I don't know what they did, but eventually I went to sleep. But I fought it. I fought it at
right,
least for about 3, probably about 5 minutes, because the doctor
right,
said you did not want to go down. I was like, of course I didn't. Like,
right. That's the last thing like you're hearing to say, and it's like, okay, we gotta put you to sleep. Like, I don't think so.
yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Right, right. So yeah. That's and it was called a prolapse cord. It happens in like 2% of labor and delivery births. Um, so I know it was the Holy Spirit like warning me, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't have broke your water, because something was
right,
like, ask what the risks are. And like they were looking
right.
at me weird when I asked, but now I see why is because, that happened once they broke my water. So
And
yeah.
how are your feelings waking up? Do you remember anything like waking up?
So I don't remember like that, the day of that much.
Right,
Phil says that I held her and I kissed her. He said later on that day, like I actually was able to breastfeed her.
mm-hmm.
But I don't remember.
Very much.
No, no, I don't. I don't. I still don't remember much. And I know that's kind of like my body trying to protect me of what
Protect
we're
yourself. Yeah,
going on. But my mom was
yeah,
like, "Yeah, they couldn't stabilize you for at least 2 to 3 hours after you had Amani." And I was like, "Oh, really? Okay."
yeah.
So also,
We
yeah,
had a we had another girl. She she almost bled out, and they didn't tell her. They just was like, "You're doing great," kind of a situation, just to keep her calm.
yeah,
And I think people just don't realize how dangerous childbirth is.
yes,
And that if you don't have the right team, which it sounds like you had the right team, it sounds like you had like a top-notch nurse who
Yeah.
knew
Yeah.
not to not to let go,
Right.
you know? And
Yeah.
you thank God for those type of people who know, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Because
girl,
uh, and the funny thing is, and it's not funny, but they said they had practiced the same scenario 2 weeks before I was admitted, and I was like, what? Like, so they knew exactly what to do
you,
when it presented itself, and I was just like, it just so happened she was on shift, when it happened, because I just don't know
right,
how I would have reacted as a nurse or a doctor,
right,
seeing that. So, um, God has a way of walking you through even the 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 dire situations, because
right,
my husband didn't even get a chance to see her born because he had to stay in the room
right.
because I was put under. Um, so yeah, yeah. So they're here. I just
She's here. She in the other room. It's okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I can hear them. They are itching to get in my arms too. She's like,
Yeah.
"Mommy," I hear her upstairs, but yeah,
And you can't do nothing but, thank God for people who choose not this job as like a profession, but as their passion. You
yeah.
know, that's what I love about, my daughter, she's my bonus daughter, but she
Mhm.
wants to be a nurse.
Oh, that's
And, because she's type 1 diabetic,
oh,
and she's like such a compassionate person. I'm like, you would be a great nurse because they are better than doctors, in my
yes,
opinion. You
yes,
know,
yeah,
they really are your angels. They take care of you, they make sure. And, I cannot imagine what she was thinking because she knew that your baby's life was literally in her hands,
right,
you
right.
know?
I've but so she was like, I can't move my hand, like it didn't register, like,
Right,
oh my goodness, like if she moves her hand, we could lose the money, like.
right.
And I was crying. It was just a lot. It was a lot. Yeah, yeah. So I'm still struggling to get past that because you know they almost lost me and baby girl.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And I don't think that you'll ever be. I think she'll be. Listen, I think she'll be 30 some years old. You still have a little anxiety. I don't think it'll
yeah,
ever. That kind of
yeah,
things, they don't go away.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because these are two people that you prayed for,
Right.
that you waited for,
Yes.
that you spent money for.
Oh,
um,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so for you to be at the finish line. That's what I would say. You be at the finish line. We here, okay? This is it. This is the gamut. Um, I would feel the same way. So you said that you're still dealing with postpartum. She's almost 2, right?
Almost two. Yep,
It's okay.
yep.
Um, are you seeing anybody? Are you seeking help?
Yep. So I've been going to a therapist for a year and a half now. And she specializes in like traumatic labor and delivery experiences. She's a black therapist too, which is great.
Mm,
Because she understands like what black women have to go through more so than other groups that have to deliver babies and things.
right.
So she's helped me work through a lot, but I still have some work to do, but I know that I knew I needed help because um, like every waking moment was thinking about what happened or what
Right.
didn't happen. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So I hear you, lovely ones.
oh
They
yeah,
they seem to be all right.
yeah, yeah, they are.
What would you say to a woman who has been trying and she wants to know the next steps? I think that um, we talk about prayer and waiting. What would you tell that woman who now wants to build her family and is having a hard time conceiving?
I would say one, go after what you want. don't let anyone tell you no, because there are so many ways to become a mom. There are so many ways to get your miracle. Um, God made doctors and nurses and scientists and researchers for a reason. And I feel like although the road may not be easy, it is possible to get to that goal of being a mom. And I wouldn't leave any stone unturned. I would keep pushing until you get what you want. And don't let society tell you that it's too late based off of your age or what you went through or what you didn't go through or what you waited to do. Because God is a God of miracles. God will work so fast, you don't know what happened. And in my case, um, it was a little bit of a wait, but it was worth it in the end because the timing was right. And I have an amazing husband. Um, and I don't know if I could have went through that process with anyone else but him.
Amen.
So I say keep the faith. Prayer is key, but also keep the faith in yourself that you can do it. I know going through the process twice, it was hard some nights because I questioned myself in terms of why can't I conceive naturally? And I have friends that have 5, 6 kids and who end up getting pregnant 6 weeks after they have their one child, and I'm just like, what am I doing wrong? But I had to stop doing that because everything is in due season.
Amen. Now, did you think when you had the first one, because you had the IVF, because a lot of people say, um, you was just worried, and so now, you'll have the second one. Did you have that slight feeling of like, could this possibly happen to you as well?
Yeah, I
You
did.
did.
I did. My mom was like, you guys, or my parents were like, you guys will be able to get pregnant the second time just fine. And it's just like the generation that my parents grew up in, I don't think they necessarily understand like infertility per se because it was something that wasn't talked about as much as it is now. So
Right.
I was like, okay, all right, we'll see what happens. And I knew in the back of my mind, like, we're probably gonna have to try
Go back.
again with IVF, and that's
Right.
okay. Um, so it's a process. It's a constant process for me, or it was. But I just have to meet people where they are,
Right.
and that's what has continued just to keep me humble about the process and not offended, because some people just don't know what it is to struggle to have or to get pregnant. So
Right.
um, yeah.
And that's what I do too as well. Um, you know, I'm 40 something trying to conceive. My mom was in her 20s, so my mom didn't have any problems.
Yep, same
So
here.
who's to say if my mom was 40, she'd have had problems having kids? We don't know that answer. And
Right.
so, you're right. They just don't know how to navigate it. And I just let her know that my mom's a fixer,
Hmm.
inherently.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you can't fix this. We can't fix this. I know you want to fix it, but we can't fix it.
Right.
And all you can just do is educate people to say, I don't need you to give me reasons of why it's not happening.
Right.
Just say, how can you support me?
Right. Right.
And this is what the platform is designed for so that people know that maybe you're not going through infertility, but maybe someone and they can properly know now how to support them through the journey and not, trigger things that you already think about yourself, you know.
Right.
Um, so because I'm a donor egg mom, my child will not be biologically related to me. So we always talk about bond. I talk about that a lot.
Hmm.
So your children are biologically related to you. Did you have issues bonding with your children?
Um, I did it. But it took a lot to get used to. As far as me actually being a mom. Um, I love them to the end of this earth, but it took a lot to just adjust to. Um,
Right.
and I didn't necessarily bond with both of them right off because I think my experience was so traumatic with the labor and delivery. But once everything calmed down, bonding with them was a lot easier. But initially, it was just like, oh my goodness, like this little person is here, like,
Right.
and in the course, especially Peyton, I didn't know what to do with him. Like it was
Right.
just like, okay, is it time to feed him? Like, oh, so I need to make sure I change the diaper. This what I didn't know anything. So,
They don't come with manuals.
oh, like,
And then you have a traumatic birth, and they be like, well, see you later.
we'll see you later. Like, do the perfect test. You guys are good to go home.
You
I'm
good
just
go
like,
home?
what you mean? Like, what are we supposed to do when we get home?
What's supposed to do when we get home? Y'all ain't
Right.
told us nothing. Y'all just said,
Yeah.
you gotta go home. You can't
Right.
stay here.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Does anybody in the audience have any questions for Victoria? If you're just joining us, she used IVF to build her family. She tried naturally for 3 to 4 years. And Sister Girl said, mm-mm, that's enough. And she went straight and hopped on the train. I like women who are proactive, okay? So she was like, this is fun, but this ain't it. So we gonna move forward. You did say you had, so did you have insurance for the whole thing or you had partial insurance?
So I didn't. So the military doesn't cover IVF, so we
Right.
paid out of pocket for both. Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, paid out of
But they
pocket.
pay for IUI?
They did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think now, they now federal. I think they are now starting to pay a little bit for IVF now. In the for the military, or at least federal government is. Someone was on the I did an interview with. She was able to, but it's like recent, like within like the last like 6 months, like to a year, I think that they
Okay.
just started doing that.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
I tell everybody, open enrollment is for all companies using around this time of year. Check your insurance, see if it
Yes.
changed. That is
Yes.
something that you should always be doing. And if you have separate insurance, you have a partner, check their insurance too. So, you guys can make changes and switch plans and be on somebody else's plan.
Yes.
Because if you're on their plan, then you're also probably covered for IVF or some sort of medical intervention as well. So,
Mhm.
um, I love that. Um, I love that you. So this is the thing. I do all kind of stories, and I don't think that every story needs to be this hard, long road of a journey.
Mhm.
It doesn't happen for everyone, and that's the beauty of sharing these stories. Is you could be like a Victoria who, had easy medical intervention, but it looks like she had a very hard pregnancy and very hard delivery.
Yep.
Um, so we just never know how our journey is going to end up. We just know that that's just the journey that is put in front of us.
Right.
My last question to you would be, that means you have embryos left.
Yeah, I do.
Do you have you guys talked about what you're going to do with them?
No, no,
No,
we haven't. So
you haven't.
I want to try for maybe one more, but my husband's like, we're done. We almost lost you. Almost lost Amani. Well, I'm good, but
Right.
I want to try for at least one more. But
One more.
yeah, so we've kind of tabled the discussion
Okay.
until figure out what we're gonna
What
do.
you want to do?
Yeah,
Well, that's okay. You just got a daycare bill. In
I
addition to the
know.
ones that are here, you just got a
Oh,
daycare
yeah,
bill.
that's exactly what it is. An
It's
additional
a daycare bill. If y'all don't know, you have embryos that are in storage. They're not free.
no.
Okay. They send you a bill that says that, hey, here's the storage, and this
Yeah,
is what we charge you to keep them frozen.
yeah.
Okay. And what we hope is they do a good job and keep them frozen. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. We don't
Right.
like we don't like to lose babies. So,
Mm,
um, Most will give you like the first year free, and then after that, they come knocking on your door.
Right. Yes, every year.
We're here. Oh,
Right.
I get mine. Mine is every month, $85. That's what I say. I got it. Just came. Hey, how you? It's your
Yeah.
daycare bill.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Right. Right. Send the email like clockwork
like
every month.
clockwork.
Yeah.
Was there any last thoughts? We do have women who do complete their families. They do donate their embryos, but whatever decision people choose is what they do. Some people decide to not. They may donate them back to the clinic. They may donate them to science, or
Mhm.
they could take those embryos and give them to another couple, and they can also have children too as well. So that is an option. We have women who have in my group
Mhm.
donated their embryos. I just got news that one of the girls who donated her embryo, she had her baby
Oh,
today, and
amazing.
she
Oh,
was like, he looked just like my baby.
oh, that's
But
beautiful.
she shared it with me. She was like, I just want you to know that she had her baby. And I was
Oh,
like, well, hopefully she comes on because that'll be a full circle moment, that
yeah.
her feelings of having embryos that are donated to her, and now her child is here,
Right, right.
and it's because she decided to give the gift. Now she did have donor, she used a donor
Okay,
eggs with her husband,
okay.
and then they had a child, and then she had leftover embryos, and so she was like, she was done. So she donated a few to one lady, and I think she donated some to another lady, and I think that she may be pregnant, or she may be doing like her transfer too. So
Okay,
they've all like got together, and they're like a little mommy group, with all
okay.
their kids to keep in touch and stuff like that. So there's
Yeah.
always options that you can do, um, but whatever you decide is what you decide. I hope you let's have another one. Okay, let's have another one because those pictures that you sent me, they were cute. Hmm. Hi.
Well, I can
But
see.
yeah,
I wish you could probably see my husband's face on it. I mean, he's gonna watch the interview, but I just want you to see his like
you'd
reaction.
be like, I
No.
said what I said. Once again, I want to thank Victoria for coming on this panel and sharing her journey. And whether you made a difference or not, I want you to know that you did. You said some things in this interview that if they weren't meant for anybody, they were meant for me. So it was what I needed to hear, and I thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah. I want to be checking on you too, just to.
Oh, please do, y'all. Everybody check on me. I'll be like, listen. Sometimes they have to force their way to check on me, but they do. I'm gonna drop you down and thank